Hey guys, I'm actually reading this from a script today. I'm unscripted, but there's so many fucking details in here. There's no way I'm going to remember all this. I'm going to be 55 this year, and as most of you guys and gals, I guess, once you cross 50, man, it just goes downhill. Anyhow, so Kevin over at Skylabs, and I do watch his channel, regularly. When it comes to vintage hi-fi, he's another one of the good ones on YouTube. So he had this challenge question thing, and I guess, as usual, I'm late to the party because I'm too fucking lazy to do the video the same time as everybody else. So, but the questions were pretty cool, and I thought, well, okay, I'll throw my hat in a ring there. So question 1, and again, I'm reading this right off the script, so if you see me fucking going down like this, it's because I'm reading. What led me down the hi-fi rabbit hole? Fuck, I almost said Wi-Fi rabbit hole. That's another story. So everything started, as I've said to you guys before, was the Pioneer SX3700 receiver, a Garrard turntable, not the famous 301s or 401s. This was a fucking, I guess it was a Japanese made, plastic case, had a straight arm with a, angled head shell, and it came with like the cheapest of the cheapest Audio-Technica cartridges. But I was happy. It was 1983. I just started high school, and I went from a ceramic BSR turntable cartridge to hey, moving magnet, right? And of course the Pioneer receiver had a moving magnet preamp built into it, so hey man, I was on cloud 9. It came with a Sanyo Dolby B tape deck, with the piano keys and all that. And the speakers were Audiosphere Research, which were, you'd almost call them white van speakers, but they were sold at all your dealers. We had Crazy Kelly's in Hamilton, Ontario. I don't know if any of you guys remember that from north of the border. Everybody was crazy back then, right? And to quote the late Joe Flaherty and the late John Candy, I blew those things up real good.
Blowed up good.
Blowed up real good.
Real good.
Yeah.
Bought some Radio Shack parts and stripped the cabinets and, made them half decent, in the 12th grade. That's, a story I think I told you guys before. All right, what's the next one? My favorite currently owned hi-fi equipment. PS Audio DirectStream Senior. That thing is at the heart. It's like the camshaft in an engine. Literally everything, including my turntable, runs through that DAC, right? I've actually got to get an HDMI switcher for it because the video to I2S HDMI adapter board inside the Sony is actually disconnected at the DAC because it's only got 2 inputs, and I've got the USB to I2S matrix box, and I've got the PS Audio perfect wave transport, so I need that 3rd input. So one of these days I'm going to get a remote control switchable HDMI thing there. But why is it so special? I mean, the thing is 11 years old, and it's still smoking DACs out there that are, the Johnny Come Lately DACs, the DAC of the Month Club and all. It's still smoking all that stuff, right? People are buying these things used, and they're getting refurbed, and it's less than $2,000. It's the best deal going, right? I mean, hell, I spent $300 and another $300 getting both the transport and the DAC serviced, very recently, and it was worth every penny. For that kind of money, yeah, I could have bought another DAC and all that, but why? Anyhow, so yeah, that's still, my favorite item in my current rig, and it always will be. Products that I bought and regretted. This will kind of shock you. Macintosh MC50. So I bought a pair of these 6 years ago from eBay from a seller who was very honest. He packed everything perfectly, and the only thing he advertised that the amps had an issue was a scratchy volume control or the gain control on the front panel. Now, these were the transistor versions of the amps, of the Macintosh amps. This is back when they had, what was it, the 2105, and then later on, these two Macs were 50 watts each. They were monoblocks. My friend, when he fixed them, he basically, with all the parts upgrades that I did, plus the repairs that he did, they were pumping out 70 watts per channel. Now, he still got the amps 3 years later. One he fixed them both. One still got an oscillation. I really got to follow up and find out when the fuck I'm going to get my stuff back, but that's another story for another day. So that was one regret. The other one was, believe it or not, my BAT VK50-SE. It's a great fucking preamp, right? It's all tubes, fully differential, balanced input to output, right? I just spent, $2,000 getting it fixed last year, or 2 years ago, sorry, and then I sold it back to TMR, and it's up on their website right now. So it's basically it's all new inside. Well, all new. It's as good as new inside. Why do I regret it? Because at the time, when Kurt gave me all those KEF 105.3s, I was using Leo's Little Star Crimson mono, the ones I blow up all the time, for the top section, and I was using an Ice Power amp from Parts Express to power the bass cabinet, and loaded my own QBQ in there via mini DSP. Told you guys that story before. Well, after those speakers had all kinds of issues, from the mid-range driver buzzing to the Uniq mid-range having problems, and you can't service those things, man, and you can't get replacements for them, so I wound up tossing the speakers, literally, but again, Kurt gave them to me for free. He was moving to California, so and I had fun with it. They did sound good when they did sound, but you always had that buzz from the mid-range on one of them. So the VK50 had dual variable volume outs plus a fixed volume out, which I had connected to the stacks. Well, ever since I got rid of the KEFs, and I smoked 4 of Leo's Little Star Crimsons, told you guys that story before too. I didn't really need the thing in my rig, and it wasn't like it was a night and day difference, right? But back then, I didn't need the M700 amplifiers and the M350 amp. So when TMR, I traded all that stuff in and got a $400 credit in my PayPal account, who was I to argue? I was going to be switching over to the Orchard Audio stuff anyways, and I have been now, for the last 4 years. All right, so that said, the one song that I would use to demo my system, and I still do, it is the Cinema Show on the Selling England by the Pound LP. Stupidly, I sold my Classic Records 200-gram version to Mike Esposito over there at InGroove 7 years ago. It's in his private collection, and he won't sell the fucking thing back to me. Anyway, I got the Atlantic 75th anniversary 45 RPM, which you guys saw the video, and I mentioned all this crap before. Well, Firth of Fifth is always my go-to track. The Tony Banks piano part in the beginning, and then as it builds up, Gabriel's vocals and the sibilances are just right. The Phil Collins's bell hits on the ride cymbal, everything's just right. Not harsh, not dull, just, it's in my ears almost perfect. But then at the 640 mark, right, when Mike Rutherford hits the bass pedals, with my subs on, it shakes my living room, as it should. My Bose 901s, same thing. With the Bose EQ and everything engaged, at 40, I guess it would be 40 hertz with the bass pedal hits, and it just shakes the entire room. Now, when I do this track at shows, I think the problem is when I'm expecting that big boom, it doesn't occur because, God, I don't want to be one of these I hear digital fucking assholes, but the bottom end just isn't there. And I think it's because they're PCM files, and they're, God knows from what source, whatever, But I do know that the DSD files, or the SACD, you will recreate that bass hit. No issues. I remember when the reissue CD came out in '95, they cut the bass. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, even with subs, you can barely, you know, get it out. But anyhow, so that would be my one song to demo my system with. Okay. What are my favorite speakers? Right there. Right there. Oops, how the fuck do I do that? Right there. Yeah, that's it. My 901s. Hell, they ain't perfect. Their sure is pretty. Especially the one on the top after the way I resto-modded them 6 years ago. Rescued, resto-modded, whatever you want to call it. I mean, come on. These speakers, when they came out in 1968, which those are 1968 models, wife approval factor, right? Tulip stands were in vogue at the time, and I guess they're coming back now. As we all know, the tulip stands are actually worth more than the speakers. But basically, Dr. Bo said, if you women want your husbands to, trash those voice of the theaters and trash those Clipshones and get those big fucking speakers out of your living room, I can pretty much give them the same thing with that, sort of, kind of. But hey, 1968 to 2017, 49-year run, and, you've already heard my Bose rant where, they should bring it back, and hey, they should hire me to give them what the new version should look like, or should be like. Anyhow, so that's my favorite speakers. What component in my rig made me want to listen to all my stuff again? Not the Lin LP12, not the PS Audio Stellar Phono, but I go back to the Direct-Stream DAC Senior, Mark 1. My CDs, regular 44, 16-bit stuff, once it's upsampled or upconverted to I forget how many times DSD, and then out the analog filter with the transformer coupled outputs, I've never heard my CDs sound so good. Imaging, soundstage, phantom center, bass detail, impact, it's all there. So 2 shout-outs to the Mark 1 PS Audio DAC. Finally, what accessory that I can't imagine living without? Those 3 Duke switchers. I love Duke stuff. I mean, yeah, it's made in China. It's relatively cheap, pretty decent quality stuff. Those XLR switchers, I know last year I used it to integrate the Fosgate F360 Black Ice preamp, and in conjunction with the BAT preamp, and I had it jerry-rigged so that I could have the front channels be either the F360 or the BAT, and the rear channels either completely off out of the picture or turned on. And it was pretty cool, I'd be able to make the walls disappear and all that cool stuff. And then I had to break it down for some reason. I know why, because I was having a problem with the preamp, but I fixed the preamp issue. That was pretty cool, but then after I removed the 360 and I went direct with everything and sold the BAT preamp, I'm like, fuck, I've got all these XLR connections to do. Now what? Right? Because the Onkyo only has 1 pair of aux-in XLR, and it is true fully balanced differential, pairs and all that. And I thought, well, I've got the 3 extenders. If I jerry-rig them properly, right, I can run the DAC output as one of the Duke switched inputs. The other one would be the phono preamp outputs. And basically everything else is digital in my rig, so nothing to worry about. And it worked great. So that's basically the video. Thanks again, guys. Like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. I got a few videos I'm going to hopefully drop for you guys this weekend. Thanks again. Bye for now.